Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Taft City Council Successor Agency. This is a joint regular meeting Tuesday, November 17th, 2015, here at City Hall. Please check your cell phones, and if you would, put them on mute or vibrate. We will be having the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Bryant and our invocation led by Heather Mueller with the St. Andrew's Episcopal Church. So if you'd please rise.
All right, everyone, if you would please, your hand over your heart. Salute the nation's flag. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Almighty and eternal God, source of peace and love and justice, in these days of tumult, help us to remember these gifts that come from your grace, from your love. And now, as we enter the seasons of Thanksgiving and the season of peace, help us to be peacemakers in your world. May our country and the other countries of the world respond appropriately to the pain and the struggle, especially that which we have witnessed now in Paris. Those times of tumult throughout our world. We ask and pray that we would all be peacemakers and offer ourselves as instruments of your peace in this world. We thank you for this city of Taft, for the upcoming events, and for those events that we have experienced recently. We thank you for the City Council, and we pray for guidance as we seek to honor you with our decisions, our thoughts, and our prayers this night and always. We pray and ask in your most holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Mueller. Madam Clerk, will you take roll call?
Yes. Mayor Miller,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Noor,
Here.
Councilmember Cryer,
Here.
Councilmember Bryant,
Here.
and Councilmember Hill. Here.
Okay. With the council's indulgence, I'd like to go ahead and go to item 2, citizens' request for public comments before we get into the study session. So the folks that are here to want to speak, we'll let them go first. So, this is a time and place for the general public to address the city council on matters within its jurisdiction. State law prohibits the council from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. Council may receive comment and set the matter for subsequent meeting. Please limit comments to 5 minutes. First up is Adam Roberts, and he would like to talk about item number 16 on our agenda, consent calendar. Will you please state your name and your address, please?
My address.
Yeah.
Adam Roberts with White Green Energy Fund. My address 9700 Vertrees Avenue in Bakersfield, California. I'm here tonight for consent for item 16. I know, just want to make sure if I'm present for you guys to have any questions. We are a PACE provider, Property Assessed Clean Energy, so we're looking to be able to offer our program in the city of Taft. So, I can tell you guys a little bit about it now, or if you have any questions, I'm definitely here to answer.
Well, can you give us a little synopsis of what the item is for the public?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do financing for energy efficient water conservation projects. So we're able to do that with the Property Assessed Clean Energy program. And what we actually will do is be able to lend people money based on their property equity value in their home without actually using that equity against them, and be able to do that on the property tax bill. No minimum credit requirement, super easy qualifying. It's a really good thing to be able to improve the community with clean energy.
So we're understanding that the county is involved in the PACE program. City of Taft is not.
Yeah, as of this point, the city of Bakersfield and the county of Kern have approved the program through Y-Green. And Taft, we're looking to do that now, and then also the other incorporated cities in the county.
Okay.
Is this for the energy, the solar too, or just the water?
Anything energy efficient or water conservation, so it includes solar, roofing, air conditioning, windows, water conservation projects, anything that's gonna, like artificial turf, hardscape, variable speed pool pumps. I mean, anything that's gonna save water or energy.
You're the only company that does that in Kern, or is other companies available for that?
There are other PACE providers. We're the only one that operates under Senate Bill 555 to be able to do it as Melrose on the property tax bill. There are a couple other PACE providers available though.
And the application, is that here, or would it go to your business for application, or go to the county for application?
Applications are submitted independently between registered certified contractors with our program or myself directly as an account manager with Y-Green or our customer service department.
And how's the interest rate based on what the county determines, or what, or between the homeowner and your business, or?
The rates are set based on term. So we have 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20, and 30-year term projects. So the rate is depending on that term. They start.
You set those rates, or are those set by law or set by mandate, or what?
I'm not sure. Our company will set those interest rates with our investor.
What are they going, or currently, are they going for now?
What's that?
What are they currently averaging?
A 5-year term contract rate 6.5%, and a 30-year term, I believe right now is 8.49.
And the county would assess, to collect the
Yeah.
interest and the principal, or just interest only? The
Well,
payment at the end?
we would put that on it goes on the property tax bill, so the full payment would be collected by the county of Kern when taxes are due.
So the City of Taft has to belong to this program for our residents, homeowners to qualify for it.
Yeah, so you guys would have to approve both of our resolutions to be able to offer the program.
And this is at no cost to the city.
Correct. And it's, we do both residential and commercial financing.
You have any information or brochures with you
Do.
now?
I forgot, definitely.
You mentioned something based on equity and property. Does it have to do with liens on the property?
No, what we do, the property, in order for the property to qualify, it has to have a minimum of 10% equity in the property. We lend up to 15%. And then as far as the actual program itself for the person, we just verify that they are actually making, they're doing their part on their mortgage. They're not behind on their taxes, they're not behind on their mortgage, they're currently not in bankruptcy. But we don't actually put it as like a bulk assessment lien on the title report. It's just a tax lien as Melrose on the property tax bill.
Anybody have any further questions?
I still have a couple of questions on here, because I'm in favor of it. I think it's a good program and stuff, and I'm all for it. But, we don't have the information or that we're learning right now from
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
It's got a little deal here for me now to look at, but, is there you say there's other companies available, but you're the only one in Kern County that's currently able to do this?
We are the only PACE provider that operates under Senate Bill 555. So we're the only one that will actually do the assessment on the property tax bill as Melrose for community improvement for the clean energy.
So we want to put solar on a house, we'd go to you to get the solar on the house.
Well, if you want to put solar on a house, what would happen is you would have a solar provider, and they would be, as long as they're certified to offer my financing, then I would be able to do.
So we can go anybody we want to go to, and then we just tell them the program we have to put on, and they come and see you to fill the paperwork out.
Qualify for the program.
Exactly. So what we do is we register and certify contractors that will be able to, in this case, your question is regarding solar. So I will register and train solar contractors on how to, on all the the details of our financing, show them how to use it. They can take an application with their customers. So say I'm sitting at a home with you and you're wanting solar, and then the contractor offers you your options to pay, tells you like, well, you can pay cash or you can finance. They offer you the Y-Green program, and you can put in an application directly with them and actually get an approval for the program right there with the contractor.
How do you differ from the financing that they offer? Most solar companies offer their own financing.
Yes, sometimes, a lot of solar companies offer our financing as well. So what you're looking at, I mean, there's different types of financing depending on what you're doing. If you're leasing a solar project, doing a power purchase agreement, owning a solar project, so it's just depending on what you're looking at doing. We actually will do financing for purchase and prepaid PPAs, which are the power purchase agreements that a lot of those solar companies offer. We don't have any minimum credit score requirement. So most of those programs do have a minimum credit score requirement. They ask for income and asset verification. We don't ask for that. So basically our program, we're lending to the property itself more or less versus the actual person.
And how do you reassess the property? Based on what they paid for it or based on the current value?
We have an automated system that will actually take the data from sales, comparable sales, to generate a value for that property.
Does anyone have any further questions? You have an opportunity to pull it off the consent calendar if we wish. Well, thank you very much, Adam. We appreciate it. Next up is Richard Connick, who wants to talk about Veterans Park. You state your name and your address, please.
My name is Richard Connick. I live at 119 Harrison, Apartment B. The reason I'm here, I have spoke to several different veterans on the west side. Our question is this, or our proposal is this: why is the veterans being charged $35 to rent this park next door when it is dedicated as a veterans park? We propose to this board that, fine, we don't mind paying the $35 cleaning deposit as long as the vets get our money back when we leave this park clean. We understand about the vandalism, but we also realize, and I know at least one of you guys on the board is also a vet, we don't feel as vets that we should have to rent our own park. That park was dedicated as the Veterans Park. So we feel that instead of the vets being charged the $35 to rent these covered areas, they either should be a refundable cleaning deposit or the fee should be waived completely. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, we'll have that under advisement, Mr. Jones. All right, thank you. Next up is Travis Cooper with the CMA FA PACE program. Mr. Cooper, would you please state your name and your address, please?
Yeah, my name is Travis Cooper. I'm with the California Municipal Finance Authority. We're at 2111 Palomar Airport Road, Suite 320 in Carlsbad, California,
Okay.
where we're located. We're also a PACE provider, similar to Y-Green. The California Municipal Finance Authority is a joint powers authority formed to assist local governments, nonprofit organizations, and businesses by promoting economic, cultural, and community development with the financing of economic development and charitable activities throughout California. To date, over 200 municipalities have become members of the CMFA. Similar to Y-Green, I'm here to introduce the CMFA PACE program, which is a simple and effective way to help your city work towards maximum water and energy efficiency. Since July 2015, we've had municipalities representing over 2 million households opt into the CMFA PACE program. PACE, as you have heard, stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. It provides property owners, to enter into voluntary assessments to finance energy improvements and water improvements. Some unique features of the CMFA PACE program include CMFA PACE contributes 50% of all issuance fees back to the local communities, 25% to the municipality's general fund, and 25% to local charities. So CMFA PACE is also the only program with a repurchase agreement, which ensures property owners are protected due to financial loss or fraud. Thank you for your time. I'm here to answer any questions if you have any questions about the CMFA PACE program. We're another PACE provider. You're asking if there's other providers out there. We would be, another PACE provider. Same PACE program as Property Assessed Clean Energy, but a different provider. And like I said, there's some different benefits of the CMFA PACE program in our give back and also our buyback repurchase program.
You heard the questions I posed to the gentleman over here. Do you have anything you could add or to that, or enlighten us more on?
I don't have anything to add to what's already been said, other than those, few things that CMFA PACE provides. And as far as healthy competition goes, it's good to have a couple of providers to give consumers options. So.
What's interest rate on their?
Similar interest rates. It's market driven. CMFA is an issuer, so we issue PACE bonds, which so the market kind of determines the interest rates for those bonds. And right now there's a really high demand for those bonds. So.
What was that? Continue on saying is that a lot of people can't afford, the credits got bumped somehow or whatever, and 6% or higher, that's pretty good, pretty high interest rate on a lot of people where they've had equity in their home, they get equity loan for around 3.5% to 4% interest rate on their money, and it's good for 15 years, 12 years versus 5 years at 6% and 8+% at 10 years. There's nothing out there lower than that or that is.
Well, right now, the benefit of the PACE program is that it's linked to the property. So to answer your question as far as a lower interest rate, I can't say. I'm not sure what else would be out there but I can say that linking the financing to the property is very helpful to the consumer. So they don't have to, the person doesn't have to be approved for the financing, and it stays with the property. If they sell their home, that financing stays with that home, and so it doesn't carry with them if they need to,
If the person don't pay their obligation, after 5 years, the county takes over that property and sells it, and you get paid that way, or how that works? They don't.
Yeah, as a normal assessment on the home.
Be a lien.
How do your two programs differ?
We differ in what I mentioned. Our give back, we give 50% of our issuance fees back to the community. We give to local charities 25%, and then 25% back to the city, to the general fund. CMFA is one of the largest joint powers authorities in the state, with close to 250 members. Cities and counties are members of the CMFA. We finance close to $10 billion worth of projects. I could name off a lot of projects that you'd be familiar with. San Diego Zoo's one of them, a lot of different projects over close to $10 billion. So we've been around for a long time, and we're very experienced.
Are there benefits for the individual consumer that are different?
With the CMFA, peace of mind, knowing that there's that buyback program, so that they can't be taken advantage due to fraud. If the contractor is in breach of contract, then that contractor, according to the agreement, is required to purchase back that assessment. If the contractor refuses to do so, then CMFA and E3, who is a company that we work with, is also required to buy
You do
it.
that too, don't you? You do that too? Buy it back if the contractor frauds? That's all I have.
Mr. Cooper, thank you. Mark Staples, do you have any input on this for us? Our planning director?
Thank you.
Thank
Only
you, sir.
that I was planning sometime early next year to bring a nonprofit group out of the Central Valley that's would help us with some free technical assistance when it comes to getting the information out and everybody understanding the difference between the different financing opportunities for energy efficiency products for their home. I'm not familiar with these specifically, but I've been trying to study up quick through this nonprofit that's been working through our current Energy Watch Kern Cog was facilitating, now Kern County General Services is. So I don't have too much to add on that, other than on-bill financing, or these options have been the latest trend for paying for it.
And my concern is that, if you have a home, $100,000 home, and they put $20,000 worth of solar on it, or thereabouts, and you add it to a property tax, if it's a 5-year deal, you're looking about your tax plus another $2,000 or $3,000 if it's a 5-year plan. On top of that,
And that's where this group would be able to break down the different options of getting energy efficient upgrades on a person's home. There are other options available, and they would be able to break those down. You have, it appears, individuals that are specific to what their program is, so they wouldn't really speak on some of the other options and how it would be affordable for an individual or a family in a home.
thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Mark. Okay, that gets us through our, this is request for public comments, then we move on to the study session, GovInvest. Mr. Jones?
Teresa, do you want to introduce your presenters? I don't know those.
Ms. Binkley is our finance director.
Yes,
Good evening.
Good evening. Back a couple finance committee meetings ago, I talked about GovInvest. They're actually a company that sells a product or software that shows how your PERS liability will affect you in future years. So in making decisions on, say, salary increases or anything that you want to consider in making changes in payroll and stuff, you could see how it would affect your long-time liability for calculating your PERS cost. So when I brought that forward, you guys asked to take a look at it and wanted to interesting and to just see what he offered. So we have Ted, right?
Yes,
Ted, and he's going to give you a little presentation on what their software can present to us.
Okay, thank you, Teresa.
Would you introduce yourself and your address, please?
Yes, my name is Ted Price. I'm with GovInvest, and the company's address is 900 South Figueroa Street in Los Angeles.
Okay.
So it's a lot more crowded down there than it is up here. But thank you very much, esteemed members of the Council of Taft and citizens as well, for letting us speak here on behalf of GovInvest. And again, I'm Ted. I'm the CEO of the company. And so I'll just jump into what we do. Can you guys see that okay? And can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, do we need, are the lights all right? Or do you want to, everything okay there? Yeah.
I can see quite well.
We'll go to your first one, we'll see how it works out. Yeah, you're fine.
Looks fine, yeah. So what I'm going to do is just give you an overview of what GovInvest does before showing you a demonstration of the product. But essentially, our mission is to provide tools to government agencies to help them better understand their pension obligations and also their OPEB obligations. I'm not sure if you guys have healthcare benefits. Do you have those? You don't, so you just have pensions?
Yes.
Okay, so ignore anything about OPEB here. But essentially, pensions are a major issue that are affecting, obviously governments across the country. And we're solving that through software with real-time information. So giving you up-to-date information. I don't know if you know that your CalPERS reports are actually 2 years behind. So you receive those reports. And the reports that you guys have now are as of June 30th, 2013. And our information that we show you on our software is as of today, or as of your last payroll period, which is probably 2 weeks ago, or whenever it was. So it's up-to-date information. You can do instant analysis, so it allows you to do a lot of things that normally you'd have to pay an actuary to do. You can do that on the fly with this software, and a lot of times those kind of analyses are cost prohibitive, and CalPERS won't do them for you. And then also to provide you solutions to actually solve those underfunding problems that you have with your pension liabilities. And again, this is, some of this information can be a little bit financial and wonky, so I'll try to make it clear, and that's really the goal of our company, is to make that information easy to understand for people who may not have a real finance background.
That would be me.
I'm sorry?
That would be me.
So the problem here, obviously, that we're looking at is actual reports are very complicated. I'm going to just go real quick and see if I can pull up one. This is a CalPERS report, and if you've ever seen one of these things, it's 96 pages long, and it's just full of information. I mean, it's just extremely complicated. So you have that. I'm sorry, that's the wrong theme here. That's a problem. That's complicated. And then you have these, hundreds of millions of dollars in unfunded liabilities at cities. I'm sure you guys are a few $1 million in unfunded liability. And what that means is essentially you have a liability greater than the assets that are supporting that. So it's what we're finding, and what we found, the reason why we started this company is because the actuarial reports are complicated. How can you effectively convey that complicated information to people who are actually making decisions about those liabilities, people like the council members? And so that's what the software is all about. Providing you clear solutions and the ability to understand the assumptions that these actuaries are making. And so the question is, why now? Why is this software important? Well, there's some new accounting standards that have come out. GASB 68 and 75 is for OPEBs, but 68 is for pensions. And what that's saying is that essentially you have this pension liability, and now it's going onto your financial statement. So now it's actually a part of your financial statement, whereas before it was just kind of something that was, a footnote. Now the government is saying, look, this is a real liability. If you go through a bankruptcy proceeding, these liabilities still stay there. So the government is encouraging and saying that you have to be responsible for these assumptions that are going into the actuarial analysis. A lot of people think these assumptions are much too aggressive and they're making the liability a lot smaller than it should be. So we're allowing you to actually adjust those assumptions and see how they impact the analysis. Again, because this statement's coming out and it's going into financial statements, there's going to be questions from investors, there's going to be questions, maybe from you guys, and from the general public on your pension liabilities, and the software is geared to actually make that information easy to understand and to convey it to the public. So again, the solution here is what we do as a company. We provide you the reports. You still have to get the CalPERS reports, but we can provide you other sorts of consulting services around those CalPERS reports that the actuaries can't actually do for you at CalPERS. And then we go above and beyond by actually creating analysis, creating an environment that allows you to understand those liabilities and do things that normally you'd have to pay an actuary to do. And then from there, we can allow you to actually find solutions to fund those liabilities and pay it down over a period of time to save you guys money. So I'm going to now go into a demonstration of the software real quickly, if I can get it to work here. Let's see, make sure.
Set this thing to keep it quiet. I'll keep it from.
Do you guys have any questions just before we go into this demo, or should I get this to work?
I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
I'm talking about the unfunded liability. You have to get information from PERS. Of course, you're familiar with the fact, and you touched on it briefly, and that is the fact that the equation that is the calculation for PERS unfunded liability has several variables. The key variable to that equation is the anticipated rate of return,
Yes,
right? You agree with that?
Yes.
Which was historically, from the beginning, when Gray Davis started this pyramid scheme, 7.75%.
Yes.
And just recently, they dropped it all the way down to 7.5%.
Right.
And they earned 2.4% last year.
Exactly.
Right?
Absolutely.
However, if you as a municipality, even after you publish your unfunded liability, like the city of Taft, for instance, when we got our last report, which shows our unfunded liability at $6.4 million. But if you wanted to buy your way out of PERS, out of the unfunded liability, currently the state of California says then you change the anticipated rate of return from 7.5% to 3.8%. You aware of that?
I was actually not aware of that.
Okay, well, what that does, the impact on the equation is a multiplier of 5.
Yes.
So you change that anticipated rate of return, which if you try to buy your way out of PERS, they insist on that because they know that 7.5%
Yeah.
is impossible to garner.
Exactly. So that's the hypothetical termination liability. So if you try
That's
to
the
get away from-
hypothetical termination.
Yeah.
That is correct. So that would make the check that we have to write
Yes.
to the state for what they're saying is our $6.4 million unfunded liability, we would have to write a check for $32 million bucks,
Because
right?
that's assuming that you guys have to invest that at the risk in treasuries or something that, or municipal bonds, which are very low yielding, as opposed to what CalPERS is investing at a 7.5% return, in theory. So you're absolutely right. And the thing with our software, if I can, for some reason this display is not working, but the software, you can actually see the impact of those changes. So CalPERS returned 2.4% last year, right? And they're assuming a 7.5% return. So you
Right.
can actually, in the software, manipulate that discount rate down to, say, a 5% return, over the next 30 years, and you can see how it impacts liability. And what you'll see is that it increases it by,
Exponentially.
3 or 4 times. And that is actually a real situation that can happen, to have a 5% return in the future. And so what some of our clients are doing is they're actually, and it really depends on their financial status, but they're actually, using our software to move the discount rate down to what they think it might be at, a 5 or 5.5% return, still pay CalPERS what CalPERS is telling them to pay, but then actually set some money aside, based on the difference between the 7.5% and the 5.5% return, because they think, look, we need to set this aside. This unfunded liability is way bigger than we think it is, so we need to actually put some money aside in a trust, because
I don't think so much that the unfunded liability is way bigger than we think it is. I think the unfunded liability is way bigger than they admit it is.
Right, exactly.
That's the key.
And the question is, how big do you think it is? And you'll know how big it is if based on the particular assumptions, if you use a software like this or any actuary to actually produce the analysis, because the analysis is extremely complicated. And so to tell you what that liability is, you have to do actuarial analysis. And the only way to do that is to hire a consultant or to have a tool that allows you to produce that analysis.
There are other variables involved in PERS and the future PERS investment portfolio, and one of the big changes going to take place in PERS over the next 15 years is you're going to go from having 2.1 employees per one withdrawing. So 2.1 are depositing into PERS for everyone that's withdrawing. Over the course of the next 15 years, that ratio is going to change dramatically. That ratio is going to go all the way down to 0.8 persons putting money in PERS for every person taking money out of PERS.
Right.
Now, do you have that capability in your software as well?
So one thing that the software does is because it produces actuarial analysis, it allows you to manipulate any sort of membership size that you have. So, for instance, you can, what the actuaries do currently is they say, look, you have 100 people that work for the city, and there's 150 people that are retired, and we're using that to produce our calculations, and this is what your costs are going to be. But what our software does is it actually says, okay, well, you have 100 people working for the city, but X people are going to retire. As those people retire, they get replaced by new people, and you can actually set the assumed kind of steady state. If you think that more people are going to retire than are going to actually be hired, you can set that in the software, and then you can see the impact in the long run of what your costs are going to be and the percent of payroll that you're going to have to pay to fund those liabilities. Because I'm sorry, this is getting maybe too...
No. We have, just let me give you a little background on PERS and this council. This council has discussed this in depth for more than a decade.
Oh, wow.
I will tell you this. So where for many municipalities the unfunded liability is something brand new and startling, it is not to this council. I will tell you that for a fact. It has long been something, not just a footnote, it has been something that PERS would not even want to admit. Now, by law, changes in law, you have to not only admit it, you have to publish it.
Yes.
But it is not new to this council. So just to let you know, you're not talking to a door here. You're talking to some people who understand the problem that is PERS. However, it gets much deeper than that.
Sure.
When you think about the fact that even PERS themselves, in the document that they published November the 18th, 2014, anticipate CHP PERS being the first one to get below a benefit coverage, a percentage of less than 50%. In the private sector, at 80%, you're labored.
Yes.
At 70%, they're looking at you real good. 60%, the Securities and Exchange Commission is going to come in, seize it, and they are going to prosecute all the principals.
Yes.
They anticipate being below 50%. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole issue with, pension in the government. It's a big problem.
And another issue you have to think about is, at what point in time are people going to truly understand where that is headed and understand the fact that there just aren't enough assets out there to fund a program that is unfundable, and that it will eventually have to change, or much like in Detroit and Stockton, and it went to the federal government, and they said, and I'm sure you're aware of this, that the first duty of a municipality is to provide services to the taxpayers. Secondary to that is pensions.
Yes.
Secondary to that.
And
are you also aware that the program that insures, the government program that insures pension funds throughout the United States of America, because of all the failures of private pension funds, that they anticipate raising their rates by 40% over the course of the next 3 years?
Yes.
It will double between 2013 and 2019, up 100% because of the failure rate and the uninsured rate.
Yes.
I'm sure you're aware of that as well.
Yes, and it's interesting because that's really the impetus for GASB 68, was the fact that these Detroit and Stockton bankruptcies happened, and this liability it's even more of a liability than bonded debt in a lot of cases for some of these cities that have bonds, because in Detroit they return 25 cents on the dollar to their bondholders, but their pensions, they still have to give those pensions to people, and they're using a discount rate that's very, very high compared to what it should be, since it's a liability that you have to give to these people, and it's a hard liability, so it should be on the balance sheet of financial statements, which is why this is happening.
Another big variable in the pension calculation is the fact that the PERS fund artificially anticipates the early passing of all retired government employees, which is a terrible thing to say because we like our employees, whether they can currently work for us or they retire.
Yeah.
But in point of fact, that's another one of the variable in calculating your unfunded liability, is just exactly how long people are going to live after they retire, and it is artificial in the current CalPERS pension calculation. Can you change that in your software as well?
Yes, absolutely. We can change any variable. I mean, it does all the actuarial analysis that any actuary would do, and they're all the CalPERS variables as well. So CalPERS just did a mortality study where they increased the mortality a little bit, and it did materially affect the analysis, but...
Get out of town. You mean it raised the unfunded liability?
Yeah.
Boy, there's a startling revelation.
Right,
Holy smoke.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what we can do, and I really want to show you guys this. It's just I don't know why when I canceled out of the for some reason when I canceled out of that screen it went to this, and in the worst case, I can.
Is that a prediction for the future of the Sierra?
That's very optimistic, as a matter of fact.
I hope so. We can get a little snow. That'd be great. Yeah. Now, if this doesn't work, what I'll do is I'm just going to go.
While you're working on that, I will just say, I myself am glad to see this coming along. I was glad when the changes were made to the accounting, because then people had to face the fact, including PERS. Now, one of the things that disgusts me, and we spoke about this briefly in the past, is the fact that, just so people, especially in the audience, understand, there are monies that are sent by the employer and the employee into the PERS fund. These are real monies that exist to be invested so that the monies the employees expect to have, which they were told they're going to have when they retire, are there. These are real monies. This is the unfunded liability. This is what they say should be there based on an unattainable rate of return. Now then, the state of California, in spite of the fact that this is real money, last year were only able to earn 2.4% on real money. Money they had to invest, hard money. But guess what they were able to do? This money that has never existed, this unfunded liability, this cloud, they earned 7.5% on that. You know how they did that? Because they charge every municipality 7.5% on their unfunded liability. It is a tax on taxpayers. It is money out of our general fund that is not available to put police officers on the street or buy additional equipment or provide for fixing streets and things like that. So CalPERS only earned 2.4% on the real money that they had, that the employees and the employers had put into that fund. But they were able to basically hose municipal governments and the taxpayers and earn 7.5% on money that doesn't even exist.
Yes.
That's something else, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up.
Yes, it's true. So since we kind of had technical difficulties, what I'll do is if it's okay, I'll kind of come up here and show you guys what the software looks like. So if you can see here, this here is this is an overview. So this tells you just a summary of the information in the CalPERS report. So the amount that you have to contribute, the payroll, the option to pay ahead in a lump sum, and then also the breakdown of your membership. And you can actually drill down into the membership here. So you can see, it takes a second to load, and hopefully the internet here is not too slow. Oh, here we go. You can actually see all of the members here on your plan, and you can manipulate particular variables. So you can manipulate if you want to increase someone's salary or give a salary cap, you can do it by bargaining group, so it's useful for bargaining purposes. You can see how the impact of those adjustments affect the liability and the cost that you have to pay. You can change retirement ages. So CalPERS does a lot of studies, and they know what proposed retirement ages are for particular individuals. But sometimes within a city, you understand the demographics of your city more than CalPERS does. So you can actually change that within the software and really get into member level details. See, here we are. It was a little slow in loading. But you can see these are all the firefighter, this labor group, and each person that works there, what benefit they're on, how many years they've worked for the city, and then hopefully this works. If you click on there, you can see all the detail about this particular employee, their age, and here's the things you can change: retirement age, and salary.
Do you set all that up, or does our staff have to enter all the information?
We enter it. We set it all up, and it's a cloud-based service. So all you have to do is provide us the initial data, and you should have it in your payroll system. I mean, it's just the active members that you currently employ, and then we get the information from CalPERS from a download. You guys just download a particular report, and then we take that and we deal with all the data. So it's not a problem. And then the way we keep it real time is that you guys generally send you send a report to CalPERS that every 2 weeks of your payroll information, and then you would send that to us as well, so that we keep it up to date. CalPERS just puts it in a warehouse, and they wait 2 years, and they do a huge audit and do evaluation. And what we do is we actually just update it onto the software, so it's continually changing and up to date.
We're constantly up to date to knowing exactly what our liability is.
And then we can update the CalPERS return as well, since CalPERS knows what their return was in every year, but they're just 2 years behind in their valuation. So we can update the return. We can update anything that's happened in the last 2 years to show you what the liability is in real time.
So when you set it up, do you use the assumptions made by CalPERS as a baseline?
Yes.
Which is the retirement age, the mortality age, the anticipated rate of return, all those things that are part of that equation, you use that as a baseline.
They're all built in, yeah. And so what I'll show you here is this is the actual visual. So you can see here, this is the accrued liability. And then the assets are here in blue. Mm-hmm. And so the red there is the unfunded liability, or the net pension liability. So you can kind of see, obviously, the city, their liability is greater than their assets, so this is the amount that's unfunded. And for this particular city, it's $166 million, which is pretty large. It's the city of Orange, they're one of our clients. And then what you can do is you can actually go ahead and you can project this out into the future. So you can see in 35 years what the liability is going to be based on all those particular assumptions. And based on, in X year, this is 2024, based on our best guess or your best guess of the membership in 2024. not just, you know, an assumed rate, but what we think that the actual membership is going to be based on the economy and demographics and things like that.
So if you back that up, just for a demonstration for the council, if you would, if you back that up, and that's assuming that 7.5% rate of return right there. That's the baseline for CalPERS.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, change that to 3.8%.
Okay.
Can you do that?
Big
Yes.
red piece.
That's 3.9. I could enter it in, but it's, so there you go.
Well, heavens to Betsy, look at
It
that.
went up 282%, or $367 million for this particular agency.
Gracious sakes, that's downright scary.
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue.
All right, thank you, I appreciate
yeah,
it.
We know what that is right now, but we're basing all this on numbers 2 years ago.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. One other thing that you can do with this, so there's a lot of assumptions CalPERS makes, obviously, which we discussed. Those are produced in the back of the software. So we just give the city access to what we think are the important assumptions for them to change, but we have the capability to change any of those assumptions. So if you want to change other assumptions that CalPERS makes, you know, most of the cities tell us that they think they don't want to mess with mortality assumptions or retirement assumptions because CalPERS does a lot of studies for that. But we have the capacity, obviously, to change those assumptions, and we can make that something that you guys can change if you want to.
CalPERS also did a lot of studies for that 7.75% rate of return.
Exactly. That's right. Absolutely. One other thing, when I was talking about funding solutions, so right now, most cities are paying over the course of 30 years. So what that means is over 30 years, they're paying this unfunded liability until it gets down to zero, much like a mortgage. What you can do with the software is you can see different types of amortization schedules. So both, there's something called a level dollar, level percent of payroll. There's also a CalPERS method that they use. You can change those different methods and see how it affects your costs, but you can also change the period, the amortization period. So you can say, instead of a 30-year amortization period, I'm going to just say that's a 20-year amortization period, and then you can see how that affects the liability. You can also see how it affects the cost, since now you're paying less interest over the course of these 10 years, but you're paying a little more upfront. You can also see what happens if you pay down a lump sum prepayment. So if you want to just pay an amount up front, that'll affect the unfunded liability and save you money due to the time value of money.
Can you just kind of turn that and show that to the camera? Just,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so people understand what we're kind of looking at.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
And then if you want to go over to the cost side, you can actually see the costs that make up that you actually have to pay to fund those liabilities. And these costs are based on all of these assumptions as well. So you can see you have the employer's cost here and the employee's share of that cost, as well as the unfunded liability component. So this is what, as you can see, the unfunded liability component in this case is the larger component of the cost that this city is particularly funding.
That's nothing unique in the state of California, by the way.
That's very true. That's very true. And a lot of states too. It's very similar.
Yeah, it's actually coast to coast, that is correct.
Absolutely, absolutely. And some great features that you can do is you can go ahead and you can see all of the underlying data down here, and you can see how it changes based on the change in the analysis. You can also download any part of the information as a PDF or an Excel file, and you can use that for presentations if you want to include in, a presentation or in a financial statement or something like that. You can
And it's got multicolored graphs. You know how I love that.
Yeah, and and you can do saving different kinds of analyses, sharing them with other people within the city, and then there's a lot of other things. There's different kinds of key metrics that we show, things like the funded ratio. Might want to show that really quickly. So this is actually the funded status of the city. So you can see that they were actually over 100% funded in 2007, and then what happened in 2008, 9, 10 was the financial crisis, and you can see that the graph dramatically goes down.
In 2008, CalPERS went from $212 billion to just over $110 billion. They lost over $100 billion on their investments in a single year.
Yeah. And you can see the effect on this, and you can see it kind of, went back up, and they're really hovering around, a 65% at the city of Orange right now. So it's clearly,
Kern County's about 60%.
Kern County's on its own plan, right?
Yeah, but I talked to the treasurer.
Okay.
Yeah, he's about 60.
Yeah. A lot of CalPERS agencies are very similar, just because CalPERS manages the money in a similar way. But each agency, the interesting thing about CalPERS is that each agency has the ability to have their own. They have their own liability, because you can pay down the liability in whatever way you want to. You have different demographics that changes things. So it's not the same in all states, but in California it's the way it is. So that's really the overall view. There's a lot more that we can show, and I'm sorry that this screen kind of crapped out on us.
Could we ask Ms. Binkley to come up and kind of your thoughts on this program? I'm assuming we're kind of through with the nuts and bolts, sir? Ted?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
You can stand here. Well, it was something that they had approached me about, GovInvest, and I thought it was something interesting that I could present to council. It's not on this agenda. I didn't put it on here for the proposal to purchase. I just wanted to get council as a whole feeling about if it was something that they were interested in. I know there's been, like you have said, there's a lot of discussion in what CalPERS are doing. So I thought it was something very interesting, because one, it tells you what is your future right now, but then it shows how you will affect your future by making decisions. So it's not, so it serves two interests,
I think it's a wonderful tool, and like I say, we have talked about this. We have talked about this in depth. In finance committees, we've talked about it in open session, and I've done a great deal of study and research on this over the years. It's the first time I have ever seen a tool that could so readily demonstrate the real unfunded liability. Once you get past the smoke and mirrors, and CalPERS does that, and they have for a very long time, but to be able to show truly what that policy has done and where we are, because I have always held that the biggest lie told in regard to PERS is the lie told the employees, and that bothers me, and it has forever. They work hard for it, they earn it, they're counting on it, they deserve it, but they have been lied to, beginning with Gray Davis and the actuaries, when the legislature swallowed this lie as presented by the PERS board. So it's the best tool I've ever seen to demonstrate the reality. I applaud you for that. I thank you for that.
Would you kind of give us a little breakdown on your company and how long you've been in business, and
Absolutely,
how many cities and counties you're involved with?
Yeah, so,
You want to speak
I'm sorry. So we're a startup company. It's been a little over a year that we've been operating, since August of last year. So we had this idea to create this software, because my co-founder and I came from different backgrounds. I was in Wall Street in finance, and she worked in government transparency. And so we realized that the pensions were one of the major issues facing governments, and we really decided to create a tool that could help to make that information easy to understand. And so we just started the company. We started building the software, and we realized that people were really interested in it. And so then we realized, even deeper, that people wanted to actually produce actuarial analysis, and they wanted to be able to dig into the numbers, not just see what CalPERS was telling them. And so we then set out to actually produce the actuarial analysis. We hired engineers, we hired actuaries who could be programmers as well. And what we found, just kind of a side note, the reason why we're the only company doing this is because actuaries are traditionally very not only risk averse, but not necessarily. They want to keep all the information to themselves, because they kind of want to play actuarial master with everything that they're doing. It's very true, because I know a lot of actuaries from being in this business for a while. And so we're really, the goal is that we're empowering cities to do their own analysis and really uncover what it is that the actuaries have always been telling cities. And just, no actuary has really put all of that together.
No, actually, what you're uncovering is what the actuaries have not been telling the city.
Right, exactly. But they know. And when the city wants to ask a question, then they have to pay an actuary to actually do that analysis. And that's the whole point of the actuarial mantra, is that they have all this information. If the city wants to know anything, no member of the city can produce that analysis, so they have to go to the actuary to do it. But now with the software, the city can actually do that analysis on their own. And so to kind of to get back a little bit, yeah, we've been the company's been around since August of last year. We built the software and we launched in April of last year, and now we have almost 50 cities that are on board in Southern California and Northern California. We have a lot of references, a lot of clients, like we said, the city of Orange is one, a lot of cities in LA, Irvine, in the Bay Area, and so we have, and we also do the actuarial reports as well. So cities that have other post-employment benefits, healthcare benefits, we do those reports. We employ actuaries that are fellows of the Society of Actuaries, been around for a long time. So the software is certified by actuaries, it's produced by actuaries, and so.
Have you demonstrated this to the California State Legislature?
Not yet.
I'm quite serious.
Yeah, we have a couple connections there. We're getting to that point. Like I said, it's been a crazy ride the last year, and we've really had a lot of traction, a lot of success. A lot of clients are very happy about it. But yeah, those are the next steps to kind of get to the higher level of things as well. So we actually just signed up on our advisory board the Treasurer of New Jersey. So New Jersey's in major pension problems, and so we have the treasurer on our staff now.
So is your fee? I want to ask for numbers until we get on an agenda. But your fee is based on a monthly. It's a setup fee or whatever, and then a monthly.
There's a setup fee, and then there's an annual license fee. So it's basically a cloud-based software that you log into. So that's why you don't have any maintenance or anything like that, and you just pay every year. You get a login. You get as many logins as you want, and it's really based on the size of the membership, how many employees that are in the city. And you guys are pretty medium to small size of the city, so that's how we do our pricing.
Okay. Real quick, would us subscribing to your service supplant any current purchases that we make that are already dated, like you mentioned, as far as the 2-year-old actuarial reports? Would your product supplant any of that, or we'd also have to buy that? Or
No. You mean the reports?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you still have to go to CalPERS and get the reports from them.
That's what I thought.
The ultimate goal is that we'll be able to actually start producing those, but it's a big CalPERS is a big 800-pound gorilla that
that doesn't like transparency.
And they don't like transparency. That's very true.
Essentially, your software is a way to help us prepare to fund that liability when the government won't give us information to allow us to fund that
and
liability.
to understand it better. Yeah,
Isn't that awful?
They don't want you to understand. They don't want you to understand the gorilla in the room.
Yes.
And they never have.
Yes.
And
Very good.
that's what's interesting about your software.
Yeah, absolutely.
Teresa, how will this be a cost saving to your department, having this program?
It actually really isn't a cost savings, but I think it's more of a tool to help the city understand where we stand financially. It's more information that we'll be able to produce that we weren't be able to get.
And I can add just real quick that a lot of cities we work with, and it may not be the case for the city of Taft, just depending on what you guys do, but we save cities a lot of money that they would normally pay to an actuary to do this kind of service, but that's more on the healthcare side of things. A lot of cities actually do employ actuaries to do some of this analysis with their pensions, or even a financial advisor, or your staff members. We've had cities that have said, look, the analysis, some of this amortization things that the city staff could actually do if they devoted the time to, it would take 8 to 10 hours of their time to do something that they can do in just one click of a button. So it saves the city staff time putting together reports that they can download with the software, and analysis that maybe they'd have to spend time doing. And then obviously, if you had to hire someone, then you wouldn't have to hire that person to do this. So there is cost savings in that aspect, but it varies from city to city depending on what you guys normally do.
Well, it's a problem that's not going to go away. Is there any other questions by anybody?
Great presentation, great
Okay.
product.
Thank you.
I can see, you probably can see that we're interested, so we'll be interested in your proposal.
Yep.
Maybe we can get it on the next agenda if that's appropriate. talk to the city manager and see what.
I'll leave
what's up.
Teresa with some proposals that I actually brought, so I have them here. If that's
Yep.
okay.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, thank you
Appreciate it.
very much.
All right.
Appreciate it. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Not a problem. You demonstrated everything you need to demonstrate.
We have those once in a while. All right, well, moving on to item number 3, council statements, non-action. How about we start out with Mr. Knorr tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a couple of things. First off, everybody talks about shameless advertising. I'm gonna put this on right here. You see that? I had the pleasure of wearing this for 3 days. My wife and I were part of the final honor flight coming out of Kern County.
For the year.
For the year, that's right. I believe the first one for next year, Mr. Mayor, is scheduled for April at this time. The mayor has been on an honor flight. I don't know if you've been on more than one. Anybody else?
I have not.
Well, I'm telling you, if you have a bucket list, and I have a bucket list, and it includes things like hunting elephant, but going on an honor flight is an amazing experience. And being with these guys and seeing their faces when they go to Washington, D.C. and interact with the people is it's worth 100 times what it will cost you. You will get so much more out of it. So if you ever have the opportunity, and there will be more opportunities, then I would suggest you take advantage of it, because it was an amazing trip for my wife and I, and I believe the vets that we were fortunate enough to be with and be guardians, they thoroughly enjoyed it, and it really was something. So I'll talk to you about that again some other time, but truly, it's an amazing experience. And I believe the mayor, because he talked to me about that, and he said he had a wonderful time. As a matter of fact, it was quite ironic. He sent me a text when we were on the bus. It was really neat because we're on this bus with all the vets, and the one very, very busy day we had in Washington, D.C., we had police officers with lights and sirens, and they moved us through the traffic like you would not have believed. That sirens are going, and they're putting people up on sidewalks and curbs to get out of the way of this Prevost bus as we made our way all around Washington, D.C. And we pulled up in front of the Sailors Memorial. It's a true story.
Navy Memorial.
Navy, yeah, the Navy Memorial, and my phone went off, and it was Mayor Miller, and he said, "Hey, Dave, I'm sure you're gonna have a great time." He knew I was on the honor flight. "Think of me when you get to the Navy Memorial." And I thought, you know what? I told him, I said, "You aren't gonna believe this, but I just showed there. We just pulled up there." So, in honor of that, and in honor of the mayor's service to his country, I got you this.
All right. Nice. Well, thank you. I just got a haircut, and the hat will fit.
And then the other thing I got him is this memorial coin, and it was minted when they dedicated that memorial as well. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you for your service, sir.
Well, thank you, David.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. All right, next. I made it back just in time. I was fortunate enough to be a part of, as was the mayor. I believe Councilman Cryer was over there. I saw Kathy Oren over there for the county EIR. The city manager, Craig Jones, was over there, and that was quite a sight. There were a lot of people interested in letting the County Board of Supervisors know where they stood on the EIR. A great many of them came from outside of Kern County. I found that to be quite interesting, but they did. They were sure enough that they needed to speak, that they all left their houses, which it looked like most of them lived in their mother's basement, I would have to guess, with the windows blacked out so that things they were growing in there wouldn't die. But they managed to gather up and get in a diesel-powered bus and drive on over to Kern County and badmouth oil and gas and all the negatives, and what a group of folks. So they finished talking and they left, and that was nice. As a matter of fact, when we began the session after lunch, it was Supervisor Couch who thanked everybody in the industry for acting professional and conducting themselves as such. There were a lot of sheriffs around. I think maybe they anticipated that there was going to be a bit of a scuffle, but that never came to pass. And then a lot of people from throughout Kern County talked about all the benefits of oil and gas production. The mayor gave a speech. I gave my 2 cents worth as well. And those of you who have watched that saw that Board of Supervisors approved that EIR on a 5-0 vote. And there was a long time that I was over there from 8:30 in the morning until 7:30 at night. 11 hours. After everybody who wanted to speak to the supervisors spoke, then there was a period when the staff consulted with council to address every one of those things that were brought up. Nothing was rubber stamped. Everything was given due consideration, I will tell you that. And I congratulate the board on the way they did that and conducted themselves and conducted that entire review. And when it was all said and done, like I say, some things were changed. They took some of the concerns brought forth during public comment and actually included some of that language into the EIR. And it was a great thing, and it was a good thing for Kern County. It'll be interesting to see if it's going to be challenged. But I congratulate the county. I congratulate everybody in the industry that paid for. There was 3 years and $10 million spent on this thing, and they looked it over real hard. And it will benefit the county and everybody who lives in it in some way or another. So congratulations to the Board of Supervisors and everybody involved in that EIR process. Then finally, terrible things going on overseas. What happened over in France, what happened over in Paris. That evil is not going to go away easily. That evil exists all around us, and I assure you that evil is right here in the United States of America. And it's a shame to think, but we will see that. We will see that bloodshed. Those people prey on soft targets. That is the nature of a coward. A coward preys on soft targets and innocence. And we'll see more of that. And so what we've got to do as a country is, we're not the world's police, but we need to be the toughest guy on the block. We need to take care of our own, and that takes investment in military hardware. We need the very best. If we ask our men and women to go out there and protect our freedoms, they need to have the best stuff money can buy every day. And that includes the police that protect us right here on the streets, right here in Taft. So I'm a big believer in that, and that's why we have those freedoms. And that's the men and women in uniform that protect them, including the mayor who was there, and he did his stint. So we cannot shortchange them by asking them to go out there and protect us without giving them our very best. God be with all those people who lost family members, but you know what? We have to be vigilant because evil is around us. It will be. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, adding on to the Paris situation, you know, it's interesting. Every time we have a tragedy, we have political people talking about gun control, and of course, my favorite is gun disarmament. It never ceases to baffle me. You can have your opinion of guns. Prior to a few years ago, I would have never considered myself as a person who would carry a gun. I was afraid of guns. I wouldn't ever have thought of owning a gun. I didn't want to be around guns. I didn't have any in the home. I didn't want them in the home. And then the thought of somebody taking away the privilege of me carrying a gun. Again, I thought, I didn't really think a lot about it. But do we have to go back and actually have a point in our current history where we repeat past history? I mean, Nazi Germany, they took away the guns of the citizens, and what did they do? They killed 13 million people because they had no way to defend themselves. We're currently in a situation where we have people we do not know who they are. They could be the person next door that looks just like the other person next door, and they could strap a bomb on their children or pull a gun out and start to attack us. I find it amazing that we actually have senators in this country who believe we should be disarmed. I currently carry a gun 95% of the time. I currently believe everybody should have that right to carry a gun. I currently believe that everybody should learn how to carry a gun. But the thought of somebody taking that gun away from me makes me so angry I can't see straight. And I know that Councilman Nora will probably appreciate the fact that I now share that sentiment. I always felt I should have my right. That was a God-given right. That was a right that this country put into our Constitution. And the thought of somebody saying on a universal basis, we're going to take those away. Are we so ignorant that we would think that the good people should lose them because the bad people will give them up? Really? Are we that stupid? I mean, I think that there are some very intelligent people who actually believe that. And I normally don't want to share things on a universal thing, but I guess I look at this and say, we in Taft, we in this county, in this state, in this country, really? Are we going to allow somebody to take away something like that from us? We may not want to individually carry a gun, but how dare you take away my right to make that decision? So that is my personal rant for the night. I just think that we need to think about one gun on one person in France might not have made the difference, but perhaps 5 or 9 people who'd been carrying a gun might have made a difference. Imagine being in a situation where 2 or 3 people have, machine guns. I'm not a big person who knows every name of guns, but 2 or 3 people who happen to have a handgun. I can promise you that if I was at a concert where that was happening and Councilman Knorr was standing next to me, I would be alive because he would make sure he took care of that. So my rant for the day is be aware of people trying to take away your rights. Even though it sounds good, I would love a pansy world where daisies and flowers and everybody's, love and peace and nobody's carrying guns. I'd love to have that real world, but it does not exist. We will always have bad people who want to take away our rights. So that's my rant. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Cryer.
Thank you, Mayor. It is a sad, day that, innocent people get slaughtered, going about their business, drinking coffee, having dinner with their loved ones, and going to movies and concerts. Sad day. But in Europe, they have a really tough gun control law. It's very hard to have weapons there, even to own weapons. And thank God that in America, we're so able to do that and have our Second Amendment. And I can't much add to that. I think Dave and Councilman Renee said most everything I wanted to say concerning that matter. But it's a sad day, and pray for their souls and their families and their times of need. Last council meeting mentioned that the trout derby was canceled. It was at the time, but now it's on again. So this weekend, we like to fish and like to have some fun with the family. It's a time to spend time with your loved ones, your children and stuff, and enjoy it. And they get a chance to win some money. It don't cost that much. I believe it's $10 for young kids and $20 for adults. And it's a great day to enjoy. And according to the weather, it should be around 72 degrees on Saturday. So go out there and have a great time and enjoy it. And also the Christmas season's coming up. You'll probably hear more about the council and from all the different nonprofits and stuff, time of giving, helping out our fellow man, and different service organizations for fundraisers and stuff, all for good cause. And in a giving mood, help volunteer and support them, because what they raise helps our community, helps our children, and helps the ones that are really truly in need. And I trust giving to our community and giving to the government and let them use the money to help out the unfortunates. But this is the season to give, and that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the sake of not being redundant, I just want to say ditto to all the previous statements made. The sympathies are definitely with those folks in Paris and any of the folks that happen to lose a loved one, whether they're stateside or abroad. And as we do come upon the holiday season, I just wanted to wish everybody, because we're not going to meet before then, a wonderful Thanksgiving, and hope everybody just takes a look around, and the smallest thing that you might take for granted, somebody else looks at that as a privilege. So I just be thankful for the things that we have, the opportunities we have, and I hope everybody knows that I'm very thankful to live in a great place like we have here, and I wish everybody a great Thanksgiving. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. To add to Mr. Knorr's statement, the folks that were against the EIR had a chance to speak in the morning session, and I don't know, 25 people got up and spoke against. And so we broke for lunch, came back, and then there were people who got to speak for the proposal. All those who were against left.
Yes, they did.
They didn't have the courtesy to stay, and we listened to them, but they didn't have the courtesy to come and listen to us. That's kind of what you face. So that would, to me, it was sad. And some of the dissenters said, well, we haven't had time to study the study, and we need more time. Well, it's been going on for 3 years. How much time do you really need? And that's the tactic that folks use. One of the tactics that's holding up our general plan is that they come in at the very last minute, throw a lawsuit at us, and then hold us up because they have to study our study. So that was kind of interesting to hear that. One of the things that's going on right now is the question of refugees coming in from Syria to the United States. We're acting like we don't have any refugees here, and well, I think we have 11 million refugees, but we call them illegal aliens, but I don't know how many more people we have to take to satisfy our nation's generosity and make us feel good about ourselves. And why would we want to allow people into our country that we're basically at war with? Yeah. These are a lot of innocent people, I understand, but we're taking a real chance. The other thing that's happening in our nation is, and it's happening the world over, is people are using our freedoms against us. And like Mr. Knorr was talking about, they're picking on soft targets. And that's what's going to happen here. It's just going to be random soft targets, and these lone wolf people that that have been here for a while. Look at the ones that are already committed some atrocities here in the United States. They've been here for a while. They looked like they were okay. They acted normal, and they went berserk on us. And so I don't know. Of course, we don't have all the answers here, but just be aware of what's going on. Protect your freedoms, and watch everybody's back. Again, I think the council, we get caught up in things, but we do wish everybody a safe holiday season. Remember, the weekend of Thanksgiving, there's more people on the road than any other time in the calendar year. So just slow down, be careful out there. Hopefully it'll be decent weather that weekend, so just if you're going to grandma's house, just slow down, take your time, get there safe, and get yourself back safe. So that's all I have. We have department reports. Anybody want to speak tonight? Okay, moving on. City manager statements, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no statement tonight.
Item number 6, city attorney statements.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No statement.
All right. Item number 7, future agenda requests. Anybody have a?
I believe, Mr. Mayor, you talked about putting the software that was demonstrated on a future agenda for consideration. I know you made a statement concerning that. Would that be something we want to?
The invest thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'll concur on that.
Thank you.
All right, then we move on to items 8 through 17, consent calendar items. All items listed on the consent calendar shall be considered routine and will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the City Council requests specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Any item removed from the consent calendar will be considered after the regular business items. Are there any items on the consent calendar that any member of the public would like to comment on? And I think we've already had comments, so here we go. Item number 8, minutes of the November 3rd regular meeting. Item 9, payment of bills. Item 10, purchase of 2 new copy machines and 1 used color copier machine from General Office Machine, Inc. in the amount of $16,900. Item number 11, approval of memorandum of agreement for Service Employees International Union, SEIU, Local 521. That's establishing, amending the position classification plan and establishing corresponding compensation rates. Item number 12, funding to the Taft Chamber of Commerce for the quarter of July 2015 to September 2015 in the amount of approximately $4,100. Item 13, consent to the inclusion of properties within the city of Taft in the CMFA PACE program that was previously discussed. Item 14, expenses related to recruitment and placement of a physician at the Taft Modified Community Correctional Facility in the amount of approximately $26,000. Item 15, unanticipated expenses for the replacement and servicing of dental equipment at the Taft Modified Community Correctional Facility in the amount of approximately $11,300. Item 16, consent to the inclusion of properties within the city of Taft in the CHFA PACE program and approval of membership in the Joint Powers Authority. And item 17, final track map number 7227, Phase 1. That is the Sandy Creek Estates on Hilliard Avenue, or Hilliard Street. Are there any items that any members of the council would like to be removed from the consent calendar?
Mr. Mayor, I'll have to abstain from item number 8. I was honored to be on the honor flight the date of November the 3rd.
Noted.
Number 13 and 16, please. Further clarification.
You'd like number 13 to be...
And 16 as well.
And 15?
16.
16. Okay, we have items 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, and 17. I need a motion to approve those items.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Mr. Crier's second. Madam Clerk, will you take roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Nor?
Yes, other than item number 8.
Yes. Councilmember Cryer?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryant?
Yes.
Councilmember Hill?
Yes.
And Mayor Miller?
Yes, and that passes on a 5-0 vote for 1 abstention on item number 8. Item 13, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. The PACE program is an innovative way to finance energy efficiency, water efficiency, and renewable energy upgrades for residential and commercial buildings. Property owners who participate in the program repay the loans throughout a voluntary contractual assessment collected together with their property taxes. One of the most notable characteristics of the PACE program is the loan is attached to the property rather than belonging to the individual. Therefore, when the owner sells the property, the loan may be paid off during the sale or stay with the property and be paid off by the new owner, who also benefits from the upgrades that were completed. PACE financing enables individuals and businesses to defer the upfront cost of energy efficiency, water efficiency, and renewable energy improvements. PACE loans are paid over a long period of time, while energy costs are simultaneously low, which typically provide the property owner with a net savings. PACE overcomes challenges that have hindered adoption of energy efficiency and renewable energy measures for many property owners. The city is not obligated to repay the bonds issued by the CMFA or to pay the assessment levied on the participating properties. The city will not incur any cost or involvement. There will be no administrative penalties or responsibilities, marketing obligations, or financial exposure to the city. CMFA and its program administrators handle all assessment, administration, bond issuance, and bond administration functions. County has already joined the PACE program, making the program already available to county areas surrounding Taft.
Mr. Bryant, you had a question in regards to item?
Just some clarification. Essentially, would you guys say that you guys are just two contestants running the same race?
Yeah, I mean, we're
Looking for somebody to jump on board with your program as opposed to his and vice versa?
Yeah, we provide options.
Can you please come to the microphone?
I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
Like I talked about previously, there's a couple main benefits that makes CMFA stand apart. We're offering the PACE program, which is an opportunity to finance energy efficiency. It's through the PACE program and assessment. I think you guys we understand that. CMFA has that repurchase agreement so where we can buy back.
Definitely, there's different benefits to your program that his doesn't offer, or
Sure.
alternative to what his offers.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if we were to approve your two programs, would it restrict us from offering further similar programs in the future?
Not at all.
Okay, and so there's no detriment. It's essentially buyer beware if they want to go with your program versus his. It's just us saying, hey, it's okay to do that within the city limits.
Yep, correct.
That's my
The
question.
CMFA, what's that acronym? What's the definition?
California Municipal Finance Authority.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
No.
None for me, thank you.
Okay, so that item was pulled. Thank you, sir.
If you want to run those 13 and 16 concurrent, I had the same questions for both.
Can we,
That's fine. We'll
Can
just
we
make it
approve
clear that
both?
you're voting on both item 13 and 16, if that's the motion.
then I entertain a motion to, I have to read it. Motion to, entitled, "A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Taft consenting to the inclusion of properties within the territory of the City of Taft in the CMFA PACE program, authorizing the California Municipal Finance," oh, there we go. I wonder if I read that. Finance Authority to accept applications from property owners, conduct contractual assessment proceedings, and levy contractual assessments within the territory of the city, and authorizing related action, and authorize the mayor to execute all documents. That was item 13. Item 16, resolution of the City Council of the City of Taft consenting to the inclusion of the properties within the city's jurisdiction in the California Home Finance Authority program to finance renewable energy generation, energy and water efficiency improvements, and electric vehicle charging infrastructure, and approving associate membership in the joint exercise of powers authority related hereto. And item 2, resolution of the City Council of the City of Taft consenting to the inclusion of the properties within the city's jurisdiction in the California Home Finance Authority Community Facilities District Number 2014-1 Clean Energy to finance renewable energy improvements, energy efficiency, and water conservation improvements, and electric vehicle charging infrastructure, and approving associate membership in the joint exercise of powers authority related thereto, and authorize the mayor to execute all documents. But we have two items, item 13, 16 concurrently, so I'll entertain a motion to
Motion.
Second.
approve those two programs. If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, will you take roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember North?
Yes.
Councilmember Cryer?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryant?
Yes.
Councilmember Hill?
Yes.
And Mayor Miller?
Yes, and that passes on a 5-0 vote for item 13 and 16. Okay, at this time, the regular meeting has come to an end, and we will be going into closed session for items A, conference with labor negotiator Craig Jones, city manager, government code 54957.6, all units. And item B, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, government code section 54956.9B,